Hello, and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk everything animation here, including Final Space, which we'll be getting into right now. I'm your host, Alex Bonilla, stepping in for Dylan Heisen, and today I'm joined by Michelle Anderer.
Hello.
And April Collins.
Chuckity!
Yeah, April is taking over my role as resident Mooncake impersonator for this week. Today we are discussing episode 6 of season 2, the Arachnitects, which recently aired. We're reacting to that. You can find more about this podcast in our previous discussion on Final Space episodes at overlyanimated.com. You can subscribe to our Final Space feed on iTunes at overlyanimated.com/iTunes. You can find us on YouTube. We always appreciate the listeners who follow our Final Space podcast there. You can find us at youtube.com/overlyanimated. And wherever you listen to us, we always appreciate any ratings and reviews you want to leave us. But yeah, with that out of the way, we are talking about the latest episode of Final Space, the Arachnitects. We got a lot of stuff to go through, so let's begin with our general thoughts. April, how do you feel about this episode after watching it?
Oh no, you're gonna start with me first.
Have fun!
So this episode was I don't know what it was about this episode, but I just couldn't get into it. I seriously had to watch it over and over again because I just kept automatically tuning out at some point. It's not that I wasn't invested in them finding Mooncake and finding out what was going on, but the beginning part of it, I wasn't into the whole, we're going to go talk to 500 people and they're going to tell us the same thing. They don't know how to use the key thing. I just wasn't into that whole bit. And then we kept cutting to the Tribor thing, which connected back into the beginning, but it was not a good B plot for me. So there's that, but I'm curious about the ending stuff. So okay, we knew that Mooncake was created from Final Space, and then I guess the Arachnitects created the Titans, and then Invictus poisoned them. So that stuff's kind of interesting. I still think Bolo's evil.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I totally do. I think they're all in on it. So, but yeah, the only other thing, I guess the positive thing that I really have to say is that, I thought this episode was very pretty from, start to end. I don't know what it was. Yeah, I kept, tuning out for the plot, but, it was just really nice to look at. If that is weird, I don't care. But, yeah, those are my thoughts.
So. It's not weird. It is really pretty.
Yeah. Well, we've got a lot of dimensional stuff going on, so there's a lot of opportunity for mixing it up there, and I think that they take advantage of that, right? So
yeah, absolutely. I thought especially when they were in the other dimension with the Arachnitects, I was this is all very nice to look at. I could just stare at this and just not pay attention to what's going on. That works for me. But I did pay attention, I promise.
All right. Michelle, what are your thoughts on this episode?
I actually had a lot of fun with it. Not as much fun as episode, oh god, was it episode 4 where they go to Ash's planet, or was that episode 3?
3, I think.
3. That's still my top one, but for whatever reason, I'm just really high on Tribor this season, and every bit with him was so funny, especially just the gag about how he keeps hating on that bartender's shirt, and he goes back 3 times because they keep just messing around and not finding or solving anything, and every time they go back he's just oh yeah, don't talk to me till you get rid of that awful shirt. It's just the worst. I thought that was genuinely pretty funny. I don't know, I guess I'm learning with Final Space that if I take it too seriously, I get kind of disgruntled when things aren't the way I hope they're going to turn out. So I kind of just laid back for this one. And I think that maybe that's the right thing to do, because I was all right, we'll just see what happens. It's fine. Just do what you're going to do. And that ended up making it a lot more fun. I will say, to co-sign the Bolo is sketch continuing to be a thing. The thing that pointed that out to me was that he just kept hating on Kevin for no reason.
Of
As like,
course.
if you're gonna hurt Kevin, I can't trust you, Bolo. No thanks. So yeah, I thought this episode was like pretty fine. Like, it was pretty fun, and then the end was like, the hashtag serious stuff. But like, I'm glad Gary's doing more stuff with Mooncake, because I feel like he's had so much else going on that Mooncake has kind of been sidelined. I mean, like, his whole plot the last episode was just stress eating, feeling like he didn't belong with Gary and they weren't as close anymore. So I'm glad that he's kind of back in the focus, because that was like such a big part of the first season. I feel like fine about this episode. I thought it was pretty fun, but maybe not my favorite.
Mm-hmm. All right. My thoughts on this episode. April mentioned that like it was hard to get into, and I think that the way that I would describe this episode is dense. Where like it's especially in the second half. It's so much stuff is going on. Where like you're introducing yet another race of space godly beings in the midst.
Mm-hmm.
We're like adding more mythology into this. We're reintroducing Mooncake's importance to the story and all. So there's a lot going on, and even through the first half of the episode, like we are focused back on the dimensional keys, but like that's not a thing that's been focused upon aside from like, okay, we're looking for this thing, but that's kind of the surface level of it. But like here we're like really getting into like we gotta unlock it, we gotta like try to figure out how to use it. So it's doing a lot of stuff. I agree that with Michelle, like I had fun with it, but I can definitely see how, given how much they're packing into it, like I can also see how it's maybe too much at once, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But especially that sequence at the end with, once we get to the titular Arachnitects, like it's kind of overwhelming both visually and in terms of story, because like these spider robot things are like really like they're intimidating, at least for me. So like I really enjoyed their usage. Tribor is a character that I have not expressed my enjoyment for in the past, but I kind of liked him in this episode.
Yes!
I think part of it is that this episode is a little more into the joke that he's supposed to be pathetic, and like it's like for whatever reason.
I would say pathetic. He's just incompetent.
Sure, that's another word.
He doesn't actually do anything that's actually helpful.
Right, and I think that they like double and triple down on that in this episode, and I think that makes it funny. Like, where in previous episodes, it's kind of like a side thing. It's like, okay, why are you here? But like, there's something about like piling on that like kind of made it funnier the further along it gets. So there's something about the Tribord line that does work for me, which I was surprised by because I usually don't like Tribord. But in this episode, I kind of like Tribord. And so that in itself is enough to make this an above average episode for me. But yeah, so there's a lot to talk about. With Bolo has been mentioned several times already, so I guess we can begin there with like the whole idea of the Titans. We get the introduction of these Arachnitects who have taken Mooncake. They eventually make their way there. They call Mooncake a missing piece because he was created from the it's hard to even explain the way they're explaining in the show. Like, it's so hard to like wrap your mind or your head around because there's so many details that they're throwing in. So like actually reciting it is still kind of difficult. The Arachnitects, they were created by beings of light. So I guess those are like, original gods in this universe. I don't know. And so the Arachnitects created the Titans to aid in the layering of dimensions. Once they reached the end of the universe, there was an evil named Invictus that poisoned the Titans. Bolo is, quote, uncorrupted. And so with his help, they imprisoned Invictus and the Titans in final space. When the Titans broke through, Gary's dad closed the opening, and in closing the opening, Mooncake was created, which causes a cosmic imbalance, they call it, and weakening the walls of final space. So their idea is to throw him back so the balance is restored. So Bolo's involvement in this is that the Arachnitects trust him. It seems he's called uncorrupted by them, and also Bolo is the one who shows up to Gary to be like, "Hey, you need to find Mooncake. This is actually important." So why is Bolo still sketchy in regards to, despite all of the turning that this episode is doing to like reinforce that Bolo is actually like on the side of good? Like, what still makes him sketchy in this episode to you guys?
Well, how can we believe them? I mean, they're just saying, "Oh, now he's fine." Everyone else was poisoned, but he wasn't. Like, where's the proof of that?
Yeah. There's no proof that he wasn't poisoned. But then the other thing that gets me too is like, okay, well, why was he the only one who was like, why was he immune? But then I feel like it's interesting that we have to almost like bring it up too. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like it's a plot point.
Yeah. And then like and maybe like even then like there's part of me that's like probably looking like way too deep into it, but whenever they showed like I guess like Invictus like poisoning the other Titans, it was like this red sort of, I don't know, magic or something, but then they use that same sort of like power to like capture, like to bring Mooncake to them as well, and then that's what they're like using to hold him, and like you see it continuing. And so I'm like, okay, so I have reason to believe that you guys are also not good too. Like you're all in this together to bring about like probably to bring the Titans back from final space or something like that. So there's just not a whole lot like that supports them being like good. And also, why is Bolo imprisoned? Just because?
Yeah, exactly. If he's fine, why is he in a cube?
Yeah. If he's okay, like there should be no need for the cube. So.
Okay. And Michelle, I assume you agree with both of those points then?
Yeah, obviously something's going to go down Bolo. And even if there's this slight chance that he's not poisoned yet, he probably will be when we get closer to opening final space. So whatever's happening with Bolo, I feel like the endgame is just, it's not going to be good for our crew.
Or what if, like, he, like, is, like, he's always been bad, but then, so that he was imprisoned, and then Invictus came and poisoned all the other Titans, but he couldn't poison Bolo because Bolo's in the prison. Maybe that's how he wasn't, quote-unquote, poisoned, but he's already bad, so it doesn't matter.
Why was he imprisoned in the first place if that was before they were poisoned? Yeah.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah, we still got a lot of Bolo vagaries to clear up in the future, I guess. As mentioned, a big part of this is making Mooncake relevant again, and throughout the episode, we're dealing with Gary's connection to Mooncake being the propelling force between them finding him again. And at the very end, we see that Mooncake shoots out his beam, so his powers are returned, because that had been a thing earlier in the season. But now it heals the breach instead of breaking it up, and so that seems to be new to these Arachnitects. And with that, they say, like, okay, fine, you can go, as long as you just don't open final space again. So Mooncake is back, it seems. Like, how have you guys felt about Mooncake this season? And do you think that this marks, like, some kind of change? Or are we gonna, like keep him in the background still? Where are you guys at with Mooncake these days, April?
Well, Mooncake's hearing voices, so that's never a good sign when, you know, someone is hearing voices that no one else can hear at the same time. So that's not good. So I feel like we're gonna slowly, like, even though Mooncake's been sort of in the background this, like, so far up until this point, it's probably like we're gonna start seeing him like more, like, become more relevant as we continue on. So that's kind of what I'm predicting, because you can't just like introduce like this big bad and like that is connected solely to one character and then not like expand upon it. Like, that doesn't make sense.
Okay. Michelle, your mooncake thoughts at this point of the season?
Yeah, there was a huge cliffhanger with him at the end of the episode, so I feel like there definitely is going to be. He's playing into something pretty big. We're just not exactly. I mean, it's obviously going to involve Invictus, and Invictus is probably the person who took Lord Commander's remains away at the beginning of the season, and he kind of sounds like Lord Commander's. Like, I don't know what that means, but clearly Invictus is like the big bad of the season, if it's not Bolo. But I think my question is more like, is Mooncake going to be relevant moving forward as a plot device, or is he going to have like more of a personality and an internal like growth? Like, I don't know. I'm a little worried he might just be a plot thing now because he has his powers back. But maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe he'll still have like his relationship with Gary. I do think it's interesting that when Gary's like gonna sacrifice himself, we get that black and white flashback of his original bug mooncake, and I don't know, that flashback I found kind of absurd, but maybe that's because I have like no heart. But like, so he's like hanging out in like an alley, and these bad older kids like mess with him, and he drops his container, and his mooncake bug dies, and this is like devastating. I guess that's a reason for putting all these emotions and feelings onto current Mooncake. I mean, maybe the larger thing is like his dad died, his mom left him, all he had was the bug in the jar, and then that died. And so like maybe like that's all that Mooncake represents. I guess that makes more plausible sense why he would be so willing to sacrifice himself. But I don't know. I thought it was an interesting flashback they went with for like this culminating moment of why Mooncake means so much to him.
I agree that it was a bit of an interesting placement because it's not even when he's like sacrificing himself. They use that in the middle where like he fails to catch him in the beam, and so like he has that flashback, and then he wakes up because he's like in his bed, like kind of moping.
Yeah,
so like it's in an interesting place. And I think you make a good point about Mooncake potentially being used as a plot device as opposed to a character, because I think that was a big part of why I enjoyed Final Space Season 1, because like they did eventually make Mooncake kind of a character. Like he had like different personality traits, and that relationship with Gary was something that was very integral to that first season. So the fact that it's kind of taken a back seat in season 2, like we've been talking for a while about like, well, what happened with Mooncake? Like, why are we not using him? So it's kind of weird that we're waiting for him to have his powers again to do that. But he's only useful if he's able to participate in battles. I mean, that feels weird. But if from here on, like we get back to him reminding us, the audience, of their relationship together, and we use Mooncake for different things, I would appreciate that, because I think that was a big thing of why I like the first season, and I definitely think that there's still stuff you can do with this second season, especially now that we're like adding this thing of the Invictus or whoever is talking to Mooncake, like that's his conflict going on. Somebody mentioned he sounds a little similar to Lord Commander.
He does. He sounds very similar.
I would note that when Gary says something like, I've already lost everything, he says something like, the Gary, all is already lost. Like, I heard the Gary.
Yes,
but
I heard that too.
Oh, okay, you heard that too. Okay. So,
yes.
So that seems like a very specific thing, and we must remember in the first episode of this season, there was that scene where Lord Commander got disintegrated by the celestial bodies. So there's something going on there. I can't really pin my finger on what, but there's some connection.
There has to be.
Invictus was using Lord Commander to get to Final Space. That's pretty. I think that's pretty obvious at this point. But he's going to use him again for some other thing.
That would also make sense. So maybe it wasn't, because remember, we even had like that moment, like in the first season with Lord Commander, whenever like Gary goes and visits his dad or whatever. Yeah, and like how like he's like the Lord Commander. What was his name? I can't remember.
Oh, his like first name.
Yeah, like whatever. Yeah, I forgot. But anyway, he was a completely different person. And then something happens whenever they go to try to close Final Space. And so maybe like a piece of Invictus like got through and infected and poisoned the Lord Commander. So maybe that's why like we get like that like the Gary kind of thing, because maybe like Invictus is like, I don't understand like human naming devices or whatever.
Yeah, that checks out.
This is the Gary. I remember him from the Lord Commander days.
Yeah, like it is also absorbing the memories of this vessel.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I'll say that the voicing of this is very menacing. Like they do a good job of like making it kind of cut off. Where like I the last line where it says something like "I'm coming. Do you think because I can't be seen I'm gone?" Like I had to listen to that like 5 times and I couldn't figure out what he was saying clearly until April before the podcast cleared it up for me. But like I think that's kind of what they're going for with that kind of a voice, like, you know, being very very like distant and dark and intimidating. So it's building up for what should be a very daunting final villain if we get that at the end of this season or next season. I don't know, but Invictus is a thing that is slowly getting more prominence here. Let's see here. The Arachnitects themselves, any thoughts on them? I thought they were like kind of funny at times, especially like the banter at the end between.
Yeah, what's up with Jeremy?
Yeah, Jeremy.
Jeremy wants Mooncake to be available on weekends.
Like what? Hanging out? I don't understand.
Jeremy's new. He doesn't know how it works there.
April mentioned something about it being a very beautiful episode, and I agree, especially like seeing all the space spider webs going on. Like it's very it's kind of creepy, but also pretty cool, and seeing like how tiny our crew is compared to the Arachnitects is interesting. That whole scene, like again, a lot is happening both visually and in terms of what they're saying, right?
Yes, very, very overwhelming.
Anything else in terms of like the mythology that this episode is laying out that you guys think we should talk about, or something that you guys have questions about raised by this?
I mean, it's good to know the history of how things are connected, because we didn't know how the Titans were even a thing, and I guess it kind of makes sense that they were created for an actual purpose to kind of build out the universe, and then they went evil because of Invictus. I don't really know where Invictus came from or why he's evil, but like, okay, that checks out. Like, at least we got some good world building stuff. So now it's not all like questions about like, how does anything make sense? What is Final Space? Like, we have a little more idea of what Final Space is. So I'm glad we at least got that before the end of the season.
Yeah, I'm glad that we got like more mythology, but then like it also raised a lot of questions in terms of like our current plot. So I kind of like this, like, we're going to give you this information, but it may not necessarily like coincide with what you're like currently processing kind of thing. So, and I think that's good. I think that's like good storytelling too. And like, even though like I personally was a little overwhelmed by this episode, which is probably why like I didn't enjoy it, and I'll probably need to watch it like again to truly appreciate it. But like, I like that we're like building things out versus like never getting answers.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good point too. That like probably this information will be a little bit more relevant later in the season, but because we're getting all of it at once this early, so like it feels kind of like too much. So that definitely there's something to that, and I would also be interested to see how this episode plays once we have the full season in front of us. But yeah, right now it's definitely like a lot of information, and I don't know how much I'm going to remember by the time we get to the end of the season.
Or even like how much of it is relevant too, because this could just be like an episode of Red Herrings. So
yeah.
We're getting into space mystery.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. with Gary and Mooncake, like also connected to the relationship, the sacrifice that we talked about briefly is that Gary jumps up to hug Mooncake at the end there, and we have the visual of like both Mooncake and Gary kind of disintegrating at their shoulders as they're being pulled up by the beam. And is it like
no? It's just kind of spooky, little flesh flakes of Gary and Mooncake. Yeah,
they were like disintegrating and not disintegrating at the same time, and I was even more horrified by that.
Yeah, it was like dandruff, but like way more extreme.
I think Gary was like, "Oh, this hurts!" Like just like let you know that actually meant something. And this seems to impulse Mooncake to let out his powers because he's getting a big old hug from his best buddy.
Aww.
Yeah. So before we got to that climax of the episode, we spent a lot of time dancing around. Well, the first part of the episode is Mooncake getting stolen by this red beam and them chasing after him, and we have a whole thing with like Gary and Ash. Ash, her main part of this episode is that she gets to use her thingy again. We get sparked by prom-related stuff. So
I thought that was pretty funny, that was her trigger, just like awful teen memories of prom. That seems pretty relatable.
Are proms on our home planet the same as proms at ours? Is there a snake DJ going on? DJ Snake?
Oh my god. Oh definitely snake themed. It has to be for their planet.
Do they do the worm?
Maybe. That could be their national dance.
Yes.
It's very. First, they're just like asking like, "Where's Mooncake?" Since it seems he's like wandering around. Gary brings up something about like maybe his body's changing, and I was like, he has no. And it's like I know. So again, this show seems eager to like point out like make us question, does Mooncake fuck? But she'll never know.
We'll never know. But also, I think it's great that, like, everyone got a lesson out of that, like, including, like, Ash and Fox. Like...
Yeah, Fox did too!
And that was very sweet that Gary had, like, that excited moment, because he was just like, did an avocado ever teach you this stuff? And he's like, no. And he was like, oh, like, I get to do it.
He's excited too.
Mm-hmm. So I thought that was a good, like, Gary and like Lil Kato moment, to say the very least.
I'm not confident he gave a good version of the talk, but okay.
Oh no, not at all. I like that. What was it? The story ended. He's like, and that's how I ended up like without my pants on in the like tied up or hanging upside down by the hammock, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, that seems very messy. Hugh doesn't get a bunch of lines in this episode, another quiet one for him, but he does get huzzah for pubescence. So, again, like him exploring his humanity, he has to learn what puberty is. So good for him. Mooncake gets pulled by this beam. Gary asks Ava to life-fold. Ava is being sassy and asks for the magic word. This is our first Kevin piece of the episode. Is that, please, Tuesday, French vanilla washing machine? And Ava's just like, anything to shut him up. So
see, Kevin got her to actually start the ship, though, so thank you, Kevin. He has his ways of getting things done. He's also the one who got the key to start working. So, like, really, Kevin is always helping all the time. And he's the best.
Yeah.
The thing is, but he's not doing it consciously, right? Like, he's not purposely.
Doesn't matter. He still did it. That's the charm of Kevin. He doesn't have to know what he's doing for it to work out.
Okay, fine. And so then they live fold, and they also do the drop ship thing again that they did in the first episode. So you got another visual pieces like them doing all their ship maneuvers, and it's all very moving very fast in the background as they chase after Mooncake, but they don't get him. There's a moment where like Gary punches the wall out of anger, and then everybody else just starts punching the wall, which I found a good
funny. You're like, oh, I guess we're doing this now.
Yeah, it's like, well, this is a thing.
I'm glad you guys could all bond over this. Like,
yeah. But Bolo shows up as like a very tiny boss, which is a little funny in itself. This is where you got angry at him, Michelle, because he says, I don't know how you tolerate him in regards to Kevin.
That's how you know he's trouble right there.
Okay. This part, he tells them that they need to go activate the dimensional key and find someone who knows how to do it. And so, April, you mentioned that this part is a bit slow, and I think I'd agree that like these jokes aren't as great. We go to we for some reason we feel the need to call back that guy who has a bunch of hands, including the hand in his butt.
Just for Clarence. That's why they brought it back.
Yep. We have these giant sloths who say sup a lot until at the very end they like start speaking normally.
I think that was the most annoying one. Because they just kept saying sup, and I was like, this is so unproductive. Like, you're gonna waste literally 5 minutes of my life here. Like, I'll never get these moments back.
Gary was also annoyed, so I guess mission accomplished.
I felt Gary in that moment.
Eventually, Clarence introduces his niece, Dartricio, unlocker of worlds and consumer of realms and world's worst niece. So they go to her. She immediately wants to eat the keys. It's like, what is with your family eating keys? So that seems to be just a thing.
I also appreciated... No, I didn't appreciate it. I like that he's like, she's the most beautiful thing in the world.
Oh, yeah, there's that whole
she
bit.
just looks like him. And she had 3 boobs. What was that?
I mean, I thought that was kind of great, because they're like old lady boobs, like she doesn't wear a bra, and they were just like out there being free. But I mean, I guess she sort of tangentially helped them get it to start, but Kevin did the heavy lifting.
Yeah, she eventually got there. She like sets it on fire, and then Kevin holds it. It's like, I could turn off my heat sensors, but I want to feel something. So Kevin can feel pain. That's did we know that? I think maybe
he's finding his humanity too.
He's choosing to feel human. Eventually, the key gets turned because after Ash gets triggered by Gary mentioned something about a white tuxedo. So again, back to the prom thing. We get this whole like colors moving back and forth and dimensions. Hugh in the middle is like, I can taste my eyes, which is also a pretty good line for me. And they show up at the spiderweb, which we talked about. So yeah, so I feel this A plot, like for most of it, it does feel like going from place to place to like get to where we want to go. And like the fact that the title of the episode is the Arachnitects, and it takes us till the end of the episode to get to the Arachnitects, like, you know, it feels very perfunctory in terms of like, we gotta get there eventually, and they're doing their best with like throwing in gags along the way, but I don't think a lot of them land, and that may be part of why this episode isn't perfect, because of like the road that we have to take to get to the end.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think that's
a
fair.
lot.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Tribor.
Tribor, he has the most fun. Like by the time they solve everything and call him, he's having like a selfie moment with this ragtag crew he's collected every time he walks back into the bar, and I just kind of love that. It feels very him.
I wish that the entire episode would have just been Tribor.
Yes!
Like, trying to assemble a crew.
I mean, this is a lot more Tribor than I think most people would like from a quote serious episode like this. But I mean, also I think that it probably is ridiculous enough to balance it out, and maybe that's why it feels appreciated at times when it comes back in. We have this cold open, which I think was released on YouTube early, where it's just like they're at an ice planet and Tribor makes the dramatic exit. He's like, I must rebuild the resistance to resist the uprising against the insurgency, who's resisting the rebellion against the insurrection. Like, it just like keeps going on and on and on. And then he like flies off on a purple space bird.
And they will be irresistible.
Yeah,
that was the best part.
Yeah, he does a fancy landing, and the doves fly out. So Tribor is a very extra individual, and he goes all out with whatever he's doing. And we get this whole thing where like he keeps going into the same bar. So Hawaiian
and he
shirts.
says like, this looks familiar.
Yeah.
Oh my god! And the bar guy's just like, "Hey," and he just says how much he hates his shirt every time.
Yeah.
I also appreciate that the first time he goes into the bar, he specifically wants to find somebody who's like hard but not too hard, so that he can still kind of smack him around. And I liked that. Like, good Tribor, you know your limits. You know how to make an impression without, losing your stance as the toughest one in the room.
I thought that was a penis joke.
Wait, was it? Oh my god! Wait, no, was it a penis joke?
You could wanting it to be hard, and then
you could interpret it that way.
Oh my god, my eyes have been opened.
Well, again, the important part of this is, does Tribor fuck? Like, does Tribor have penises to make?
He has 3 money compasses. I'm sure he does.
Oh, we did see the money compass. Clarence had a point.
Clarence. He's got a back.
What if the money compass is a dimensional key?
Oh.
I mean, maybe. It's going to be really hard to get that off of Clarence, though. He loves that thing.
Yeah.
Keeps it so close to him. He has a special place in his heart for it.
I want to briefly ask you guys, what are your opinions on Hawaiian shirts? Because I feel that they're being made fun too much of in this episode. I appreciate a good Hawaiian shirt when in a hot sunny day. Am I too cliche? Would Tribor insult me for my basicness?
I mean, probably would, but doesn't mean he's right. I mean, I think
true.
Wearing a Hawaiian shirt means you're a person who just like wants to have a good time, and you're not afraid. Who knows that? And I think that takes some courage too. So I don't think the bartender was in the wrong. And like, no matter how many times Tribor made fun of his shirt, he never like changed his shirt. So that's
true.
That's a kind of bravery, also. Yeah.
Yeah. So solidarity with Sal. He's probably Sal of Sal Saloon. So. But solidarity with Sal. The Hawaiian shirts are good. I
think Hawaiian shirts are great during the summer.
Yes.
But like, if it's winter, you can't wear them.
Yeah.
Unless you're going on a cruise.
Or I mean, like, maybe you like want it to be warm and you're like wearing it as like inviting the warmth back during the winter. I don't know.
Or it's a party and it's Hawaiian theme.
Sure.
So you wear your Hawaiian shirt. Do you think Gary wears Hawaiian shirts?
I mean, probably. I could see that.
He's definitely worn Hawaiian shirts. Like at like some kind of like a frat party. He would.
I believe that.
This ends with like Tribor assembling his crew, and then he finds Henry a sharpshooter because his headshots were to die for. He's just taking the group photo, and Gary calls Tribor to tell them they found Mooncake. Piss off. And so Tribor's like, "Well, how do we do it? I don't know, but we look cool as well." And so that's the end of Tribor. But yeah, Tribor is doing he's doing the comedic heavy lifting in this episode, and I think he does a fine enough job with it. So
yeah, I agree.
Way to go, Tribor. Proud of you.
And yeah, the episode ends with Mooncake hearing the creepy voice again of "I'm coming." So that's our setup for the next episodes to come. So we covered in terms of like checking with side characters. I mean, we've talked about Kevin pretty much. Hugh doesn't have too much going on. Ash, did she get anything else besides the thingy thing?
The theme
No, it's
thing?
pretty much
Not
just
really.
a theme thing.
Oh, but she did. What was it? When Gary was describing Mooncake going through puberty, she was just like, yeah, same. And I was like, you also have green antennas?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
She's like, don't look at me.
Yeah.
there was a lot of Fox in this episode too.
Yeah, Fox is a good boy.
He is a good boy.
I like him.
I think that there's like a moment where like Nightfall is like cheek to cheek with Gary. I feel like there's a point in there. But,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel I like. What is it? I feel like we're not really doing a whole lot with her since like Gwen's in the final space or whatever.
Yeah. Like she's still kind of like in the background.
Yeah.
Clarence actually does kind of like talk a lot of this stuff because he's the one who's leading us from place to place. That there's also a moment where like he takes him to some general and is like, "Oh, Mr. Naughty's," is like it's kind of.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, thoughts on Clarence this episode? Any better? Any worse? It's about the same level of skeeviness.
Yeah, but I'd say about the same.
Yeah, the same. But he's more like, what is it? Pansexual now. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. He the cat man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Would he have been attracted to Avocado?
I mean, probably.
Probably.
Avocado's a pretty handsome
Cat.
Yeah. He'd be mad if anyone called him a cat, but like he's attractive whatever he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the end, Clarence is playing some kind of space chess with Mooncake. So,
I think that's kind of cute that they play chess together once a week.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it's like the first like wholesome thing Clarence has done this entire show.
Play chess with Mooncake.
Yeah.
I mean, that's about as wholesome as it gets, I feel like.
Yeah. Okay. So, any final thoughts that you guys have on the episode before we begin wrapping up here?
No, not really. I'm just like, I guess, curious to see how all of this, like, from the beginning of the season up until this point gets like looped into one thing. But I'm also glad that like we're not like super wrapping up our quest for the keys kind of.
No, we still got 2 more, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, we have to get the one back from his mom.
Oh, that too,
Oh,
yeah.
So we have technically 3 more, right? There's 5.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Okay, so we have 2. His mom has 1, and then there's 2 more. So, I mean, that's nice that, like, we're expanding it out, and it's not, like, boring.
Yeah, they're giving characters their own episodes in between the fetch quest stuff, which I think is a pretty good decision overall this season.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think that this episode, like, it gives you a lot of material for theorizing later, but like right now it's kind of hard to like piece it all together since we just watched. But there's definitely a lot of stuff here that you could certainly work with later as we get deeper into the season. So we'll definitely be on the lookout for that when we have our next episode of Final Space. But until then, you can find out all the info on this podcast at overlyanimated.com. You can join us on Discord if you want to chat with us about Final Space or any other animated show we cover here at overlyanimated.com/Discord. You can support us via Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to all of our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Katrin, aka Patron. Thanks as always to our Patreon executive producers, Ryan, Steve, Beatrice, Hugh, and Michael. Besides Final Space, we're also covering shows such as Fruits Baskets, OKKO, Miraculous Ladybug. With movies, we've got Lion King 2019 out.
Infinity Train.
Infinity Train
is coming out soon. Also very sci-fi-ish related. So, so we cover a wide variety of shows here at Overly Animated. So, but Final Space is going to keep going weekly, one of our few weekly shows. So that's a blessing in itself. And we'll definitely be back to talk about next episode. I know we usually don't like to do spoilers, but I'll just say that Michelle will probably like next week's episode. So,
Okay, interesting. I'm hoping for Nightfall is what that means.
Yes.
We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, until next week, we'll talk to you later. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.